is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Main Character Podcast, made possible by the Cult of Con. That's you guys. I'm Conman, attorney at law, and thank you for being here. Well, it is a beautiful Wednesday night, hump day, halfway through the work week, and it is an absolute honor to be here filling in for my good cousin, Con. Now, I've flown all the way here from New York to bring you guys a very special message this evening. But before I do, I want to take the time to clear the air. Today is obviously the eve of a very important day in history, one that although we intend to joke about quite a bit this evening, understand that we sympathize with those who lost their lives that day. And we have great empathy for all of the people in this country who have served and been injured and died in the wars subsequent to those events. And so to all of those people, I want to lift them up in prayer to the Father in heaven. All of those people, their families, their friends. And today also, there was a great tragedy that occurred. Without any discussion on whether or not we believe in speculations or otherwise, many people's lives have been impacted negatively. And without addressing it to any great extent, I just want to say that we are praying for these people, for everyone, for the unrest in this country at this time. And I pray that all of that will be made right with the will of the Father in heaven and on earth. In Jesus' name, amen. I am a Messianic Jew, in case you didn't know. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Main Character Podcast, made possible by the Cult of Con. That's you guys. I am Conman, attorney at law. Thank you all for being here with me tonight on the eve of my favorite holiday, 9/11. It's great to see you all here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep up the accent for the entire show, but I'll certainly do my best. Obviously, I'm not wearing my costume nose. The budget for the costume is extremely low, and that is a horrible piece of attire. All I can say is that it not only makes my face hurt, but it also leaves lines across my cheeks that sometimes stay for days, depending on how long I remained in character. So, with all that being said, it is a great honor to have all of you here for such a wonderful occasion. We have so many good things to discuss this evening, so many things I want to share with you about my culture and my traditions. I'm very excited to be here with all of you. I would love it if all of you guys could throw a quick honk or an awooga in the chat to let us all know that you're here. As you know, it is customary. Those of us here are participating in the party bus, or in this case, I don't want to make that joke, never mind. the potty car, the potty train. I would like to make that joke, but I decided not to for the sake of of sensitivity. With all that being said, welcome all of you to the Main Character Podcast. We'll start right here at the top. We've got the Ceiling Fan Man right here, my friend. Welcome in. The Ceiling Fan Man. He's another brother of the synagogue. A brother of the cloth. I don't know if that's what you call it. He's reformed as well. We've turned to the true faith. We've left behind our ways of Judaizing and have decided to follow after Jesus Christ. Here on this channel, Con wants us to be stressed that you cannot have the truth without the way, the truth, and the life, and that is Christ Jesus, the way, the truth, the life, the King of Kings, and he is alive today, and he is King today. Amen. With all that being said, who was the first to start honking? I can see that all of you guys get started on chat days in advance before I have any time to catch up. I was almost late. My flight was backed up. I was delayed. You know, that kind of thing. Let's see where we... It's hard. I'm trying. It's easier when I have something to say. If I'm making some kind of a declaration, it's a lot easier. I'm trying to channel my inner Bernie Sanders, so to speak. In fact, speaking of Bernie Sanders, I will get to it in a moment. Welcome everybody to the Main Character Podcast. Wednesday night, hump day. We're halfway through the work week for those of you on the regular 9 to 5. But if you're not, we're still bearing with you here as we're working our way through the week towards that weekend that we all look forward to because we're all enslaved to the system. A system that I had no hand in creating, by the way. I played no role in the inception of this current dynamic. Hello, Marcus Rodriguez. Welcome to the chat, my friend. We also have Wendy. Spirit and Truth Wendy, of course. Half-Truth's brother. Okay, I've got to drop it. I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can do it the whole time. Steven, good to see you, my friend. Dojo as well. Welcome, my friend. I'm not sure where the line starts, but we'll start here, okay? Wendy's got her. We got Angela O in Texas. Welcome, Angela O. If you ever decide to visit New York, you can become Angela O in New York. Welcome, Samantha Fox. Welcome in. Welcome, Rusty Shackelford. Look at all those. And we got a whole flock. A whole flock. It's a flockma. It's a chokma. Chokma. An excuse to say something Jewish. Chokma. My friend, welcome in. Daddy Skip, welcome in. We've also got Sydney Adams. Honk honk. I love that. Awuga. I've been thinking about getting it and putting it on the Bamalam. Can you just imagine? You roll up to the stoplight, somebody tries to pull out in front of you. Hilarious. Hilarious. All right, bust out the knish. Bust out the knish. It's good to see you, Black Sheep. Welcome in. Welcome, Trish Clark, as well. Welcome to the chat. We also have Allison. It's great to see you guys for real, though. All things considered. I'm trying to have a good night tonight. As you can see, the world on the outside is trying to get in. We're just going to block it out. We're going to build a large wall. We're going to build we're going to build our own wailing wall here. All the wailing can stay on the outside of that wall. In here, we'll be laughing. We'll be enjoying a delicious baklava. My ma made it. It's delicious. Her recipe is a family recipe passed down for generations. My ma actually improved upon it. She figured out how to add more caramel to the mix, caramelized sugars and brown sugar and the like. It's absolutely delicious. I'll have to share the recipe with you sometime. I forgot where I was at on the chat. KRB, welcome in. You're listening to the Main Character Podcast, starring Conman, attorney at law. Thank you for being here. Renee, welcome in. My first honk, she says. Welcome, Renee, for your first honk. If there is a good first honk or a first honk to be had, I believe it is this one here. Let me get down to my list if I can get it to work. The original. Thank you for being here. Half-Truths, welcome in, brother. I think I may have said hi to you already, but welcome. Welcome to the Main Character Podcast, everyone. It is such a pleasure to have you all here during the middle of this week after such a long week, such an eventful week, such an eventful day. You know, we've had many great conversations on this channel about various different topics, and lately the subject that has come to mind is nostalgia and moving through the timeline of history. You know, we discussed looking back on times that have passed and believed that they were better than they are today, and it is naturally our inclination to believe that though the times in the past were better than they are today, they are in fact not a true solution to our problems. We look at the time of Jesus and his rulership as the most important and the most impactful time in history. So that is in keeping with what we've been discussing lately on the channel, and we will discuss that a bit more tonight as well, because as you know, after the turn of Y2K, which we discussed last week, came the events of tomorrow night, which we celebrate tonight on 9/11's Eve. Everyone's favorite. We're waiting for the ball to drop, or in this case, the towers. I know that's not appropriate. That's not a joke. You don't make that joke. Welcome, Wayne Bailey. Welcome, KRB. Welcome, Stacia Logue. It's good to see you. I've lost the entire plot. Goodness gracious. The entire plot. Oh, well. It goes back quite far. I think that's very... I keep channeling like a Russian or a vampire. Maybe a vampire is fitting. I've come to suck your blood financially. Oy vey. All right, it's good to see you, Naomi Anderson. It's good to see you, Ceiling Fan Man, of course, my good friend. It's good to see you, Anna Banana Bana Fofana Mamima Momana. Chokma. It's good to see you, Brother Val. Welcome to the chat. Welcome also, Cat Lady ×2. You know, I've always assumed that ×2 means 2 cats, to be fair. Jasper Jaguar, welcome in. We also have Pearl, welcome in, Pearl. She also brought her own flock of geese. The accent. I can't keep it up unless I'm talking about something Jewish. Welcome in, Bruce Jesse. Welcome, Michelle Hamilton. I feel like I gotta get you all in, get you all checked in, scan those tickets so we can get going. So we can get to the first destination, which, as you all know, is my people's favorite destination, because I am once again asking for your financial support. It's great to see you, Kathy Slaw. Welcome in. Good to see you, Mama Con. She's got her little shofar horn emoji. Is that what that is? She's blowing the seventh trumpet. It's clearly about to be the rapture. Everybody hang on to your cloaks. Hang on to your garments. Hang on to your ringlets. It's about to go down. Jeff Nugent, my friend, it is great to see you on this beautiful Wednesday evening. As well as you, JDkins87, welcome in. Pineal Wasteland, Toot. I believe the toot is... Marcus is like, would have been a legendary joke. Yeah, as in like the horn, the train horn on the concentration train or whatever. Yeah, that's what it is. The potty train, everyone. Climb right in, hop aboard. It's mandatory. Let me go ahead and stick you with a barcode and an armband with a Cult of Con logo on it so we can identify who the Kool-Aid drinkers are of the train. Everyone's being shipped to a concentration camp. Okay, that was probably not okay. I'm sorry. I apologize. Oh, man. Oh, it's good to see you, Blake Higgins. I got you, Chris T, as well, my brother. We've got Amelia Petrella. Welcome in. I'm hoping that I'm getting caught up. We've got Charlie Nuclear as well in the chat. Everybody's showing up. Everybody knows the place to be on Wednesday night. And, of course, we're getting completely out of control here this evening, but that's perfectly okay. James Kashaw, my friend. Welcome in, my friend. He says it's 2 a.m. in the future. It's already 9/11 where he is. He's already celebrating the big day. Okay. Could I get the converted honk? Oh, my friend, I have not yet got it. The awooga is free on this random website. As you know, this is one of the most thrown together hodgepodges you've ever imagined. Let me go ahead and share this with the chat really quick, although I think that will forcibly scroll down my chat window. No, it did not. So you're welcome to play the awooga horn or pay $4.95 to pay to download it, but of course I just stream it for free until someone finds out. Then I'll be slapped with litigation. Luckily for me, I'm an attorney at law. I'm not afraid of the legal system whatsoever. Their attorney is probably one of my colleagues. Welcome in, Gina Groom. It is good to see you. It's good to see you, Mike. Is it Mike or is it Mike Jones? I guess the world will never know. Welcome in, Phil. I think we are just about caught up with everybody. CFM Man's like, I could not have been able to keep the accent going. No, it's like, I feel like you'd probably be able to do it easier. I don't know. That's probably racist. Just because you're Jewish, you just can do a New York Jew accent better. Luke M says, this one's not staying on YouTube for long based on the thumbnail alone. Why not? I'm not allowed to give my own Jewish perspective on life. I thought about this earlier today. It's completely acceptable for someone of Jewish descent to make Jewish jokes. How could you know whether or not I was Jewish? I could go to 23andMe right now and produce falsified results that clarify that I should just move to New York, hang out with Jews in New York for like years until I develop it. Just be down there like, I learned Yiddish last summer. It's been a great and challenging time. I don't know if they'd let me in. Have I fully caught up with you guys? Oh, we got From Conspiracy to Christ, Still Prill. Now I know why tigers eat their young. I don't actually know what that is. Please email me some of that baklava. Yes, I will share the recipe with you all in the new Discord group, which I will be discussing soon. It's the Talmud Dominion Movement. Oh, I'm sorry, I mean the Christian Dominion Movement. I'll be sharing that with you shortly, everyone. Shortly. Hopefully we're all caught up. I love you all. Thank you all for being here. If I missed you at all, it is my apologies. We have Indigo back of the bus with you, my friend. And with all of that, Lucas Williams, welcome in, my friend. Welcome to the Main Character Podcast. We're in for it tonight. We're going to be talking about my favorite holiday, my personal favorite holiday, 9/11, and the way that it has impacted the world and the direction that we have headed as a result of that. And we will try to keep it light, but we will also at some point talk about stuff that's pretty serious, I think. I don't know. Rusty Shocker. Connor's Jewish HR will want to talk with you in the morning, sir. I remember it like it was yesterday. My first encounter with a Jewish employer. I was but 18. No, I wasn't. I was 21 years of age. I had gotten my first job working at a marijuana dispensary here in the beautiful state of Oregon, here on the West Coast. The West Coast? I'm sorry, I just can't do it. I can't tell a serious story and do the accent. It's two parts of my brain at the same time. It was incredibly difficult to tell the story without trying very hard to sound Jewish the whole time. I was only 21. I was just a little wee Jewish boy. I had just learned how to sell marijuana legally. My employer told me, here, have a key to the business. Here, you open the business in the morning. You're responsible for thousands upon thousands of dollars of marijuana and taxpayer dollars. And then I asked him, I said, my boss, might you please consider giving me just a slight raise with all of this additional chutzpah, all of this additional responsibility, and all of these additional liabilities. I thought it was only fair that he would increase my wage by at least $1 or something, but he took me into the closet that day, and he gave me some advice that I will never forget to this day. He looked at me and he said, little goy, if you try to get money from me, I will have you fired. And that's not exactly what he said. What he said to me was, I give you nothing because you're too young with the company. And that is when I learned that you're never too young to do extra work, but you're always too young to be paid extra money. And that is how I learned how cheap my people really can be. Anyway, so, yeah. Probably not supposed to do this, but we're here. All right. So I have some stuff. Actually, I don't. I don't have some stuff. I have a documentary that I probably shouldn't share because it's totally inappropriate. But let's talk about it a little bit. Let's talk about the reality of the situation a little bit. So a couple weeks ago, we talked about nostalgia, and we talked about how people really feel this kind of... Oh, wait. I'm getting ahead of myself. So sorry. One more thing before we go. For those of you who are interested in supporting the channel, I am once again asking for your financial support. Please consider joining us over on patreon.com/thecultofcon, where this episode will likely end up due to violating terms and conditions on this platform, as well as it's an opportunity to support all the various shows we do on this channel, including the Main Character Podcast, as you know, Guys Gotta Eat on Monday nights, the Bulge Khalifa on Friday mornings, and of course, Sunday service where we preach directly from the Bible, and we teach a traditional Sunday service in the scope of the last season of Satan and other various things that have come about as revelation in our times and stuff. So consider joining us for those, and consider becoming a patron member over on patreon.com/thecultofcon. Thank you so much for that. Now, there was one other thing that I wanted to share with you guys, and I cannot remember exactly how I did it or how I had it set up. Let me see. First, let's start here. This is the thumbnail everyone's been talking about. First of all, that is the complete costume with the witch nose and everything that is included. Of course, I'm not wearing it because it's incredibly uncomfortable. But as you could see, I submitted this photo to the Google Gemini AI, and of course, it said that it would not edit such a photo as that I prompted for the Twin Towers and such. And so it would not do it, so I found another AI, and I said, take the background out and put me in front of the Twin Towers as I'm celebrating the event of many years of planning, the product of the new American century, the the post-Y2K true disaster, which brought about a 30-year war in the desert that is still ongoing. In fact, there are still American troops and bases in the Middle East. It is a successful operation, if you ask me. Once again, I do also want to take a moment to thank all of our wonderful supporters over on patreon.com/thecultofcon for helping to make this episode and other episodes like this possible. Thank you for your support. Thank you for everything that you're doing. We appreciate you. We truly, truly do. Now, let me try to figure out what I'm doing here. Boom. That is not quite right. Hey. Check it out. I don't know how well you can see that. I would try to zoom in on it, but I can't. I posted this on YouTube the other day as an official invitation to the new Christian Dominion Movement Discord, which I was trying to promote this, and so I also fed AI some images and designed this. This is the the incoming kingdom, as you know, and so it's kind of just a cool piece of art, but it kind of looks like a movie poster, right? I thought you guys would appreciate this. It's pretty much like I have this fantasy going on. I'll share with you guys a couple of the other ones. Look at this one. this one's my personal favorite. It expresses exactly what the movement represents. We've been working hard at this. I actually spent several hours the other day constructing the official logo for the Talmudic Dominion Movement. I mean the Christian Dominion Movement. I thought it was very special. We have the UFO of the incoming Holy Kingdom. We have the architecture, the advanced, beautiful castle architecture, the cosmos all around there, and we thought that was a good simplification of images such as this, which are meant to essentially demonstrate the same sort of imagery. We made this one here. I really like this one. It's like a 8-bit. Really cool, if you ask me, honestly. I love what we're doing here. It's like we're creating our own little culture. Wendy made this one. It's the official Destination Kingdom arcade game. I shared a few of these in the Discord. Actually, I think I shared most of these in the Discord because, I'm sure Wendy can get you all a link if you're interested in applying to join. The only reason we're doing an application process because it's a focused Discord. Like, we are open to the community for chatting about many different things. Like, we have a lobby for everybody and stuff, but the actual members tier of it, it's not a paid membership or anything. It's just like you have to get approved. And then basically from there, we're going to be talking about actual business. We're going to be looking to actually make some changes in the world and advance some causes. And so that's the plan. I mean, Christian Dominion Movement is a real thing. We're actually making it happen. But I like to create images like this and kind of troll the world with it because it's hilarious. I mean, there's it's like the world is coming under an alien invasion. Yeah. Anyway, please consider joining us over there on the Christian Dominion Movement Discord. Totally free. We'd be happy to have you over there. Just fill out a very short couple of questions and you'll get approved. No big deal. All right, back to chat. Welcome, everybody, of course, to the Main Character Podcast. I know I've said that like 4 or 5 times, but it really is the greatest place to be on a Wednesday night. I can't speak for every other day of the week, obviously, because we're here Wednesday for one big show a week. Obviously, we do the food and the service. I suppose Sunday service is a pretty serious show, but again, that's not on Wednesday night. So, as far as it goes, I like to consider this the internet's best kept secret. It's nice that it's not, too algorithmically friendly because it allows us to kind of keep things under wraps, have our little, community together. And of course, I really enjoy spending time with you guys, hanging out with you guys on a Wednesday night and getting to do fun little costume parties and stuff like this. I remember last year when we did our 9/11 talk, we got pretty serious. We talked about Dr. Judy Wood. We talked about how the possibilities that the towers were destroyed by advanced directed energy weapons, all stuff you're not supposed to talk about when it comes to 9/11. We're like, it was the space lasers, I swear. I know, I saw the blueprint at the synagogue. I was back there. The elders, they told me I wasn't supposed to tell anyone. But, clearly, listen, I remember it was yesterday. I picked up my phone. I started dialing up my old pal Larry Silverstein. I said, hey, Larry, you don't want to come into work tomorrow? Yes, I know you've been to work every day for the last 40 years. You've never missed a day, I know. But tomorrow you need to miss work. And you need to take your cat from the office. Yep, take your cat home from the office tonight. You don't want your cat to be there, and you don't want to be there either. That's all I need you to know, Larry. Oh, yeah, and is that insurance policy working? Yes, you know the one, that if the buildings fall due to an act of terrorism, you receive an additional $5 million? Yes, that one. All right, it sounds like we're doing good, buddy. I'll see you next week. I'll certainly see you next week because you'll still be here. Talk to you later, Larry. It looked a little bit different than that. At the time, I had one of those plastic phones with a cord, one of those spiraling cords. Oh. Absolutely useless. So... Oh, man. Dumb luck to get the insurance policy and happen to miss that day. Yeah, I know. That's crazy. Like, you just get a call from somebody telling you not to show up to work tomorrow. If somebody did that, I wouldn't go. If somebody literally called me and was like, you don't want to go to work tomorrow, and I'd be like, why? You can't. No, just don't be there. Make sure today when you leave work, you take everything important home with you. Don't leave anything at work that you don't want to, Yo, do you remember about 5 years ago, some hackers hacked insurance company involved? They got massive ransom and never heard of it again. Wow. I have never heard of that one, Darcy. I like that. So it's kind of like when I guess I'll just say it anyway. What would you call it? Sandy. Yeah, I don't want to say it. I don't want to give it fuel for the fire. I'm already dressed in a Jew costume on YouTube tonight. What am I going to say? Sandy Hook? Okay. Yeah. Shandy Smoke, says Wendy. I just said it. I said the words. Very true. The news and reports are accurate. Believe what you're told. Believe what you're told. I'm telling you. Don't you goy ever listen. The Sandy Hook. Yes, the Sandy Hook. The very real and tragic events of that day can never be overstated. Ceiling fan man's like, yikes. I know, I'm pushing it. I know. I can't help it. I just feel like I'm so overwhelmed these days with the fact that we're so overwhelmed with the inability to speak the truth. It's like all I would do is be in a basement with my friends saying the same thing, but I just say it on the internet because what's the point? Maybe I'll be the next guy they splatter on live television. Who cares at this point? It doesn't seem like anybody does. Shut it down. If you say it a third time, does Beetlejuice appear? I don't know who appears the third time. A grown man in a SWAT outfit running down the hallway. If you question this at all, we will come for you. I'm sure. At the end of the day, I don't worry too much about it. I kind of tend to think a lot of it is theater at the end of the day, so if they end up executed, it would be surprising because I'm so, I'm not even close to influential at this point. Hey, but who knows? See, the point of testing the waters is to give everybody else an idea of how hot it is, right? If you can come out here and get away with it. I see guys like Matt Kim and his friends talking about how the different races of humans are not even the same species, and yet his podcast is still on YouTube. And I'm like, at some point, there's got to be a line somewhere. There's got to be a line somewhere in the sand. Somewhere a line in the sand. You know, this reminds me of a story. Back in New York City, there's this district of town. It's a temple district, okay? And let's look it up. Let's take a picture of this. Let's see if we can't get an image of this. A New York temple wire. Let's see if we can learn about this. No. Somebody knows what it's called. Well, let's see if I can find it. I know that in New York. No. Is it synagogue? Aha. All right, so I'm an incredibly ignorant YouTuber. This guy knows. No consent. All right. Let me tell you a little bit about this. It's called Eruv. Is it Eruv? Eruv. The boundary wire. The boundary wire you're asking about is known as an Eruv. Eruv. See how ignorant I am? Okay. A religious enclosure used by observant Jews in New York and other cities to make an area a single symbolic private domain on the Sabbath. This allows them to carry items in public like keys and children's toys, which is normally prohibited on Shabbat. The wire, often resembling fishing line, is attached to posts or existing structures and is its integrity is crucial, requiring regular checks by a rabbi or community members to ensure it's unbroken for the Sabbath. Let's take a look here. They have it on the old Wikipedia. So here's an example of this. So in New York City, they have this because essentially you must be in a private domicile during the Sabbath in order to keep the Sabbath by the original laws. However, they have drawn a line all the way across town, basically indicating that the whole town is their area. Essentially, this is the type of place, this area, this Eruv is, they have the pronunciation. Let's see, will it happen? Did we get the noise? Did we get the audio? No audio. Okay. Oh, disappointing. Eruv. It's a ritual halakhic. The ritual halakhic enclosure made for the purpose of allowing activities which are normally prohibited on Shabbat. So the point is, these guys have a wire that goes around town so that they can go to the cleaners and so they can go to the store and so they can do all this stuff that they normally wouldn't be allowed to do on Sabbath. But because they've drawn an imaginary line, it's a private domicile. So essentially what we're dealing with is an area of town that is special and enclosed and segregated, but it's a place that Jews want to be. It's kind of like a reverse concentration camp, if you think about it. It's exactly what it is. It's the type of place that Jews want to be. Yeah, that was probably not. I probably shouldn't have said that one. That may have been pushing it a little bit. Don't judge me about my ringlets. It's all I have. I'm a balding man. Connor sounds like Zoidberg. Yeah, I wonder what Zoidberg's trying to be. There's no possible way that Zoidberg was Jewish. Zoidberg. Not a chance. Not a chance. Marcus Rodriguez says that joke put us all on a list. That sounds about right to me. What list is that? The party list? The Talmudic Dominion movement? Okay, let me take a moment to explain. The synagogue is absolutely full of beautiful and wonderful people. Let me just explain that to you. I know that from my own personal experience, that the synagogue is full of wonderful and beautiful people, and a distinction needs to be made so that people understand that there is a difference between the type of peace-loving Jews who follow God but have not yet accepted the Messiah, and the difference between them and the ancient Babylonian Talmudic Jews, who are a completely different sect of individuals. And I make that point specifically tonight because I know that there is a distinction. One of the great efforts by the enemy, the Satan, is to have us all believe that one individual group of people is responsible for all of the world's troubles. And of course, we can point to certain groups and certain individuals who identify under certain belief systems and under certain religious rites and perhaps even behave as figureheads in particular communities, and yet we must always make the distinction between normal people with their own original beliefs. I can't even do the accent right now because I'm doing the serious thing. If I get serious, I can't do it. If I get serious, I can't joke about it anymore. But I do want to make a point to say that like there is a difference between regular like synagogue Jews. You know, that there's just so many great people. There's wonderful attorneys and lawyers and bankers and people that you want to have on your side of the fence, so to speak. And many of these people are just people like you and me. You know, the other day I was picking up dinner from a local restaurant, and a small Jewish boy brought out the food to me, and I said, "Thank you, my friend. Thank you, my friend. Have a wonderful day, and thank you." And I thought to myself, I have lived a life of absolute poverty. I've worked my balls off day and night, and I realized that there are Jewish boys out there just like me working the same job as me. He's not a part of some sort of special Talmudic cabal. He doesn't possess some kind of supernatural abilities. He's just a he's just a slave. he's just a goy like the rest of you. I'm sorry, but really, no, seriously, like I had a guy come out to me he was more Jewish than I am. And he was working arguably a worse job than I was. I didn't see him driving around a free Lexus that somebody in the family gave him. He wasn't celebrating by traveling abroad on his bar mitzvah money. He seemed like he was a poor goy just like me. So, I mean, not that I'm a goy, I'm actually a Jewish attorney at law, but you know what I'm trying to say. A goy like you. Oh, shoot. And don't judge them all by the belief of 85% of them. Oh my goodness, how are we going to survive through the night? Someone's already reported us. I've already received the copyright strike. Just kidding, that hasn't happened yet. Again, please consider joining the Christian Dominion Movement Discord to join us for more serious activities in the near future as we advance the cause of doing the Lord's will in the world. Sorry, it's just really hard to like talk about something serious while doing the accent. Okay, for real though, I do want to take a moment to talk about this whole thing, right? We talked about this last week. We talked about Y2K. We talked about that whole transition from the 90s to the year 2000 and how the world felt different after that. And I remember waking up that morning, January 1st of 2000, and the world felt different. But it wasn't so different. It wasn't so far gone, right? I remember a time like it was yesterday. The world was a much more peaceful place. We rode around in simpler cars. We read the newspaper. We listened to the radio. We said hi to each other on the streets. It was a simpler time. Even I remember that. But obviously after the year 2000, things changed. And you know, we talked about it in the past, like I said, in the nostalgia-themed episode. I don't remember which one that was, but we talked about nostalgia a bit. And we talked about the fact that we had it pretty good, but not really good. But because we have it worse now, we look back and we're like, it was really good. Like, I look at the 90s and I think, man, the 90s were pretty solid. You know, everything was pretty well rounded. It wasn't perfect, but we weren't too far gone yet, you know, like, and then from there, like in the 90s, you'd look back at like even the 80s, like mid 80s, there was some pretty good economic period there. There was a little rise and things were doing pretty well for a minute. And then obviously more trouble. Like it kind of ebbs and flows, as you know. And so we keep looking back further and further, hoping to find a time when things were good. And the bottom line of that whole conversation was that if we are true and correct in our belief that Jesus told the truth and did return already, and that the most, crazy architecture, inexplicable stuff is actually the product of a unified, Christian kingdom that once dominated the earth. You look at that as the perspective and you say, if that's the truth, that was the best time in history to be alive, at least from this point. You look back and you're like, man, that was better than this. But of course, all good things must come to an end, they say, and even the millennial reign of Christ is only 1,000 years, as it's promised, before more complicated events have to take place in the sphere, for lack of a better word. Maybe the world is spherical, right? Like maybe it's like a bubble in an infinite sea. We've had that conversation before. So maybe the world is a sphere, but the land isn't, right? The dirt isn't. Okay, but anyway, if the world is, whatever shape it is, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it matters, but, it's not the same as the salvation element, who Jesus is and all that. And that, I think, is the most important thing to remember, is that the millennial kingdom is proof, and it's still present. There's still proof of that. And for those who have seen it and experienced it, they know that's what that is. And so it's very profound. And you would look back and say, man, the 90s were good. The 80s were better. Perhaps the 70s, the 50s maybe, depending on who you are. Some people didn't have it good in the 50s. I get that. But look, the world has been troubled the whole time, as far back as anyone can remember. The difference is just that things have started to get worse at an accelerating rate. And we look back at the early 2000s, you can see a significant change, right? Not that year 2000 was the first ever fearmonger campaign that the deep state, or whatever you want to call it, unleashed upon us, but it was the first time in a long time that people saw a massively organized propaganda campaign against the people, to essentially trick everybody into panicking for various reasons. It sold software and technology. It created all kinds of probably emergency legislature in localities that nobody saw coming, that everybody approved willingly, that maybe to this day are being used to support an illegal spy apparatus. Or is it even illegal anymore now that they've sanctioned it? You see, things have gotten noticeably worse. It's hard to ignore the news outside. It's like I was saying at the start of this. It was like, don't look outside the window. Everybody pull the shades on the potty bus tonight. We're not looking outside at all that crazy stuff going on out there. It's not safe on the train anymore. It's not safe on college campuses anymore. It's not safe anywhere anymore, apparently. But without getting too far into that, what I really want to talk about, though, is the fact that just after that, right, we're continuing the timeline, just after the Y2K, I think I said it was 9 months, but I was just being an idiot. What I meant was it was a year and 9 months. Like, we had gotten to the next year, and it's like, okay, now it's 2001. At least that Y2K thing's over. We made it through year 2000. We're on to the next big thing, year 2001. What could possibly go wrong? And, of course, don't say anything like that about 2025, man. What could possibly go wrong? I think what could possibly go right. I was thinking about it. What could possibly go right? Yeah. What could possibly go right in 2025? Or 2026, I guess. 2026 is the whole 250th anniversary of the United States, so we'll see if we get something happening around here, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, 2001. What a crazy year. Of course, I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again. I think we have more eyes here than ever before. I remember I was a little kid. I didn't even see it. My mom had to come in here and correct the story because I was so little I don't even remember. Obviously, by the time we saw the news, it had already happened. Like, we're on the West Coast. We're like late to the game. We didn't have Twitter back then, or X. So you woke up, went downstairs, saw the news, and were like, yo, America's under attack. And I even was so little, I didn't fully understand the complexity of the situation, of the actual trauma of the situation. And it took me until I was a full-grown adult revisiting this stuff for the first time as a grown man, a teenager, a grown man, whatever, when it was like finally time to start questioning narratives about stuff. I guess maybe as a teenager, you really break into a rebellion in your life. It's pretty natural, right? Anything anyone told you, you have to just question it just because. And so you're out here rebelling. That's how it was for me. I didn't want to listen to my parents. I didn't want to attend synagogue. I wanted to go play with the atheist children. Anyway, so you want to go your own way and you're tempted to do that, and 9/11 was one of those narratives that was just well established. Like, we all just listened to it, believed it, hook, line, and sinker. And there was this sentiment, right, that if you questioned the narrative of 9/11, that you were being insensitive to the people who perished that day. And no matter what we've started to believe about, orchestrated events and false flags and other things that have taken place that are very real, there was no way that something on this scale was truly fabricated, at least not in the sense that the people were actors. They're not with us anymore. And I think it's always worth, like I said at the beginning, having a moment to remember all of those good people who perished in that day. Not just the people who were victims of the strike in the actual event, but there were firefighters, a police department, first responders, paramedics. All these people went into the line of fire to kind of like help people. And I think that's the thing that I remember the most is in America in the early 2000s, people understood the word union. The United States, they call it like the union. The state of the union. What's the condition of the union? Like, if there's going to be a State of the Union address this year, I would say that it was a disaster. Because, you look at that timeline, 9/11, 2001, people of all colors, races, creeds, walks of life helping each other out through a real nightmare, something really big and bad that happened. And that unity was there, and the people felt it. There was a spirit, everyone holding candles, singing songs, vigils. All across the country, people mourning the loss of these people they didn't even know. And it was almost like the hurt of it actually brought America closer together. Of course, they channeled us after some useless cause, weapons of mass destruction buried in a desert. And God only knows what we were really doing over there. I heard record from my cousin over there in Tel Aviv. He told me that back in 2004, when we were raiding over there in the Middle East, when we had the United States over there, the war dog over there doing our dirty work, raiding the Middle East, that they were actually looking to dig up the body of Gilgamesh, the ancient Nephilitic leader, the same Babylonian Nephilim who created the Talmud. Well, I don't necessarily believe he personally created it, but I believe he oversaw the creation of the Talmud. And so, it is my belief that that they may have in fact actually been looking for Gilgamesh, although I've heard some stories that they were actually searching for the body of King David himself. Imagine that. Of course, they would never tell you anything like that. Even my cousin from Tel Aviv, my cousin Ari, he doesn't even know. And he's a high-ranking member of the IDF. But yeah, 9/11 was a crazy time, dude. It was a definite change. It was like a shift. It was like all of a sudden we shifted into gears, right? Like a turning point, where we had slowly degenerated from, a single family, like a one guy with a job has a wife and like 5 kids, and they all have their own room, and there's like multiple cars and like a truck and a jet ski, Like my grandpa had a split window Corvette and stuff. He wasn't even rich. You look at like the 1970s, like poor guys had like an apartment and a muscle car. Like that's what it was like to be poor then. And I'm not trying to crap on people. Yeah, there's always been real poverty, but you guys know what I'm saying. It wasn't like every normal young person can't afford to live. Like when you do the math, there's no job in a normal area where you can work full time at an entry level and afford the rent and food to live there. Like it's actually bad. And I'm only saying this because we have accelerated. It's the quickening of sorts, not just in the time-space continuum, but in the degeneration space continuum, right? I know there's a phenomenon at work where when you don't pay attention, you don't realize how quick the time is going by. You don't know how fast the events are shifting or how quickly things are getting, you look, last I checked, this was fine. I just changed the oil. Oh, we just put a new battery in there, and it's been years, man. Because you've been driving that car every day for years. That oil is black. And it slips by. We don't notice it. And I remember this. In 2001, the way things changed right after that. Now we're on the war posture again. America's not just trying to hang out at home and build ourselves back up. Now we got to go over here and fight some more boogeymen in the sand. We got to go do all this. We got to hunt down weapons of mass destruction. You know, maybe they weren't lying. It's like I said, I've heard this before. I think Wendy was the one that told me about the theory that King David was actually what they were hunting for in the Middle East. It wasn't even Gilgamesh. And that would make sense, right? Because what if King David had a bunch of weird stuff? Like, what if he in this throne room, he's got like the sword of Goliath and all this other, like, oh, he potentially, according to the Ron Wyatt theory, the Ark of the Covenant was in there with him. So it's like, that is a weapon of mass destruction. My people have been after the Ark of the Covenant for a lot longer than you can possibly imagine. We are the original custodians of the original Jewish space laser. Is that not what it is? Is the Ark of the Covenant not a Jewish laser? Somebody tell me if I'm wrong. But seriously, though, it is a directed energy weapon as it's described in the scriptures. You know, maybe we should do a special Ark of the Covenant study sometime. That would be so cool. I think the Ark of the Covenant's so sick. I grew up watching, Raiders of the Lost Ark like all the time. It was kind of a repeat classic we'd watch, and the Germans are trying to get the Ark, and that's what great writing, right? It keeps in time with like what the narrative mostly was, because they were all over like France and Egypt and everything. Mustache Man and all his people were like trying to get the truth out of all these places. So they would have loved to have found the Ark of the Covenant. I think anybody in total war would have liked the Ark of the Covenant. That doesn't mean it's going to work for you, but it was just one of those things. Like, at least if you have it, they don't have it. Imagine that. It's like D-Day and they roll up with just one boat with the Ark of the Covenant. Oh no. Yeah, that wouldn't, it would probably be nearer to the same. It'd just be, I guess, a less horrific casualty number for the Allies in that instance. But yeah, anyway, so obviously 9/11 changed things, and we've talked about it in the past that it's kind of like the original eye-opener, because so many people saw that happen and just could not believe their eyes. And it's worth noting that tragedy in real life is kind of unbelievable, right? Like, maybe this is just me, or maybe this is some kind of an empathetic outreach or what, but when I see terrible things happening to people, I'm viscerally affected by it as though it was myself or someone that I care about deeply. And I have to try not to entertain this stuff. It's like I said, when I was a teenager, I first started looking into this, you would see the videos of like the jumpers and stuff, where these people were experiencing terrible situations, and you hear stories about, people overheating and like trying to take off their clothes because their clothes were overheating, and, people talk about how their clothes had been soaked with water to try to avoid the heat from the flames. And so why would you then have overheating clothes? And people are like, is it because there's like microwave radiation and the water in their clothes is heating up and they're being cooked? And it's all some of the most horrifying thing in the world. You're like, what could cause people? What could be so hot and so terrible to cause people to jump? And I guess, a building full of flames, that's definitely not a place you want to be. But yeah, the reality of that tragedy was so intense and so pivotal that it changed the heart and soul of the country and the world, really. Some people who aren't even from the United States were viscerally affected. There's people in our allied nations who saw this and were really horrified to see it, because it's for the same reason I don't like to see the misery of other people happening, because I understand what people are going through, and it's crazy. It's like, I love to joke and have a good time, but at the same time, there's a lot of trouble in the world. We have to figure out how we're going to work through it. We can't just continue to pretend that nothing's happening forever, because that's how you get in these situations where you notice, right? And I think that we're finally in a phase of noticing, for lack of a better word. We're noticing quite a lot. And this is kind of my push with a lot of the things I talk about around the 9/11 time of the year, because as much as we know that the majority of the bad actors behind this thing, we could talk about all the time how there's an advanced system of, you know what I mean? High above the atmosphere, floating in the orbit around the planet, is a system and network of advanced laser satellites. They're marked with the logo of my people. They're known as the notorious Jewish space lasers. Look, I know people have noticed things. I remember it like it was yesterday. My colleague, everybody knows him as Kramer, also known as Michael Richardson. You know that there's a secret club and that you ain't in it. When someone like Michael Richardson can go on a racial tirade, screaming the N-word at the Laugh Factory, spending 10 minutes yelling racial obscenities, and he doesn't even see any kind of cancellation of his career. That's the difference, right? I heard him in the dialogue. I remember it like it was yesterday. He said all of that racist stuff to those poor black people, and then he said to them, "That's what you get for talking down to the white man." That's what he said. It's funny how conveniently he became a white man when it was time to face accountability for his actions. Oh no, that's what you get. Oh, a huge racist? Well, I'm certainly a goy. But obviously, it's a different standard for a guy like that than for you. Like, if you go on a racist tirade, you're in trouble. Not that I'm saying you want to, but just obviously people have been noticing for a long time. They're like, well, how come all the media is a bunch of liars? Why does everyone in the media have dual citizenship in Israel? What's going on here? Everybody's putting it together, dude. I kind of wonder if I'm even on the cutting edge. I always talk about the cutting edge. This is the cutting edge of conspiracy research. We're talking about things you're not supposed to talk about on YouTube. Yeah, we could get sentenced to BitChute or some other backwoods hellhole. The day will probably come. But until then, I'm going to speak the truth loudly from the rooftops. Anyway, it's been a weird world, guys. It's been a weird change, and I don't like to get too into the nitty gritty and get upset about it. But look, things are getting worse, man, and I don't want to sit here and complain about it. I used to be so black-pilled. I was that way. I remember. I had this kind of I quit attitude because what are you even supposed to do anyway? And I look around me and I see people trying anyway. They get up in the morning, they go to their job, they try to show love to their neighbor, to their friends, to their family. You people do that. It's like this community gives me more hope than anything because I can see people who really believe in the Lord and really trust in him. And like times like these, like today's events, like the events of tomorrow, 24 years ago, the kind of darkness in the world that continues to pervade and go around and infect everything, like this taint that gets in everything and affects everything and poisons the well, so to speak. We have to be smart enough to understand that we are not under the subjugation of these forces. Evil is as evil does, but we are from a different kingdom. And I look at events like 9/11 and see the impact that the enemy's schemes can have on the world. The way so many people were tricked into dumping their energy into a useless conflict, into trusting the powers that be to increase their spy apparatus, or to be told all of these lies about the event and treated like a child by the government. I say this, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again, there's going to be 1,000 different channels, 1,000 different creators, influencers, talking heads on the internet, and I can't speak for them. I can't say what they can and can't do or will or won't do, but there's so many organizations that have already proven to be liars and influencers and characters, right? The news media is full of crap. The government's full of crap. NASA's full of crap. The Smithsonian, the Department of Education, everyone you're supposed to trust, the church, they're all full of crap. And they all treat everybody like children. I've said this before. They treat you like you're too young, too immature, too dumb to know the truth. You can't handle the truth. It's not up to you to decide, and all that. It's like at some point, I'm 30. Some of you guys are 40, 50, 60 plus years old. I know it. It's like, how long are you going to be treated like a little kid by these people? I can't answer that question, but I can tell you that I will never treat you guys like kids. I'm never going to be the guy who looks at all of you guys and says, oh, well, you can't know. It's simply too much for you to handle. You'll have to trust me. You'll have to allow me to process the decision at an incredibly high cost, much of which will be going to myself as a bonus for budget surplus. Yes, I know we raised the tax to do it, but that's just what it's going to be. There never was any laws against usury in the Bible. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? It's crazy, dude. Caribbean says, laughter doeth good like medicine. That's one of the main reasons I come here, you guys, because I always have a good laugh with you. I always find things to think about that are funny. I cope by laughing. It's what I've learned to do. It's kind of like the Joker in that Joaquin Phoenix movie where he's like really upset and he's just like, he's just laughing like a maniac. I actually think this stuff is funny. Not the core of what's happening, but the fact that it's so high level. Like, you get into this point where you're like, man, I used to think I was entertained by little things. Like, I used to think it was like, a movie. It's Dominic Torino. It's family. Dominic Torino. Torino. I don't even know his name. It shows how little energy I devote to Hollywood these days. I tell you, they've really lost the plot. What are we on? The Fast and the Furious 13? Fast 14. Fast and the Furious 1488. I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure out how many trigger words I can say tonight. I've gotten away with a lot. I've gotten away with a lot tonight. But I haven't said too many things. Like, what was it? The ultimate conclusion. For many, many years, we believed that the events of September 11 were orchestrated by some kind of a group of ragtag terrorists from that same desert area. Bad actors, if you ask me. Apparently, they hijacked the planes, crashed them into the buildings, burned the buildings to the ground. I know you've seen that infrastructure. It's utterly incomprehensible, as you know. But that day, the rules were different, okay? Ultimately, the passports of each terrorist fell beautifully to the ground and were collected. Rudy Giuliani was there at Ground Zero to tell you all about it. Ah, Rudy, my good pal. We went to synagogue together during college when we were living in Berkeley at law school. I don't know where he went to college. Why am I like timeless? Why do I have memories of calling people on like regular landline phones in September 2001? I'm like 30 years old. I've been like 6 years old when that happened. I was calling my pal Larry Silverstein. Yeah, well, you know what it is. I'm actually an undead vampire. You can trace my lineage all the way back to Transylvania in the 1300s, when my people first decided that we were going to call ourselves Jewish. We decided that there was a chosen group, if there was such a thing as a chosen group before God, that should be us. We are the true Hebrew Jews, the Jewish Israelites, the true... Man, keywords, bro. I gotta stop this. I can't help it. I'm like upset, so I just have to do it. Like, today didn't go good. It went fine for me, but it didn't go fine for everyone. And I don't want to talk about it. I really don't. I don't like to relive the horrors of the deep state, the horrors of the cabal of Talmudists. I tell you, if you've ever had an opportunity to read the Talmud, it is truly terrible. But here's the thing. This is why I have little fear about what I'm doing on a regular basis, because I was once out here. I was listening to a podcast just the other day from a group called the Cartier Family. The Cartier. That was Colonel Sanders. I was listening to a group called the Cartier Family. I do declare. Oh, man. The Cartier Family. The Cartier. Anyway, they were reacting to Nick Fuentes, and he was saying some stuff that was totally inappropriate for YouTube. And so, what is it? If it's a joke or if we're reacting, it's appropriate. You just can't actually propagate stuff. There's a guy I watch on here sometimes. He's an anthropologist. He's called Robert Sepper. And I don't agree with him about a lot of stuff because he's got a lot of weird religious ideas. You know, a lot of people, they start to realize they've been lied to, and they start to get this weird piety about themselves that they know everything. And it especially doesn't help if you're part of a high-educated class. Like, he's an anthropologist, a forensic anthropologist, I believe, which is actually like he's an intelligent man. But I can't agree with him on everything because he gets a little too carried away with his own self-worth. Like, it just seems to be a problem for a lot of people. And if it's me, then tell me, because I'm not trying to be. But anyway, Love that guy. There's also another channel I watch on here called Asha Logos, and it's totally inappropriate, and I'm name dropping because I can. But these channels are asking and questions and saying things, and they're presenting evidence that's far more offensive than any of the jokes I make on here. So I like to test the waters because I know that at times I feel myself being censored. Like, I don't have the ability to leave comments on Shorts videos because, you know, obviously Shorts videos are a place where people go to the comment section to check it out. And they want to see what people are really saying. You see a video, they're like, oh, what's the comment section say? What is the common man's opinion on this subject? You know? But, yeah, I cannot leave those comments for whatever reason. It's very weird. Like, the feature does not exist. I'll take a video of it sometime and show you guys. It's just very weird. Like, it's just like they've taken away my ability to comment. I didn't do anything wrong either. It's not like I had a string of comments removed for hate speech or anything like that. Maybe I did, and I don't know. Wendy says she can't leave comments on Shorts either. Yeah, it seems like something that they do. It's something that they do to take away your ability to communicate. J-Tube, he calls it. J-Tube. But right, I keep getting off subject because I just have the worst inability to actually stay focused. It's part of my ADD. I received it from taking all of the recommended injections. I started out perfectly functional, but then they decided I needed to be injected with all of these various things, and now I have developed the inability to keep on topic about anything. But really, no. I remember it like it was yesterday. This was the first of a turning point in America where I really believe they activated some of this stuff, you know, this product of the new American century and all this other crap. And it really was problematic what they were doing. And nobody seemed to notice. It took 15 more years before anybody had a cohesive argument about what really happened that day. And again, we've talked about it in the past, and I'll recommend it again. Dr. Judy Wood has an incredible performance, incredible presentation that she gave. Oh, shoot, it was like 2012 or something at this point. It must have been a long time ago now, but my mom actually showed it to me. She sent it to me randomly one time. I guess she had stumbled upon it. And I had never actually seen anyone articulate the directed energy weapon conspiracy theory so well. And I've reached a point in my, you know, my consensus over time that is probably most likely what happened. And, you know, over the years, I had heard people jokingly talk about, you know, the quote unquote, the Jewish space lasers, those things that everyone was talking about. I had heard them being discussed before, but I didn't know that anyone legitimately believed in them. Regularly, this is what happens to me. I hear about a conspiracy theory on the internet. I say, do people actually believe something so preposterous is true? And I go on the internet and I start looking and I start listening and I start researching and I find out, holy moly, the most incomprehensible things are the actual truth, and the lies that they've told us are actually even more incomprehensible. That is the thing that is so crazy to me in total. I am incredibly blessed to have all of you tonight. I noticed that all of you guys are having a great time, and I too am having a wonderful time this evening with all of you as I'm filling in for my good buddy Con. I, of course, am Conman, attorney at law, here from New York City, an overnight flight, and I am incredibly exhausted. Not really, though. I had in-flight entertainment. I had first-class seating. As you know, I simply swiped my special membership card, as you know. It's a Goldstein card. Capital One Goldstein. Rusty's like, Conmanstein. Conman, perfect name for an attorney. But you have to say it like this. Conman. Conman and Conman. Attorneys at law. Conman and Conman. It's like more than one. It's like, there's a whole family of these guys. All right. Let's talk about a little bit some serious stuff, guys. I got a little video I want to share with you guys. This is uploaded by the Depressed Ginger, and I just want to share this with you guys. We'll let it share. There's a conspiracy theory from the era of one of the things that I think resonates with a lot of people about what was going on during that time. And of course, Wikipedia tells us all the true story here, making it very clear what really happened. But let's hear what the aforementioned piece here has to share with us.
Ladies and gentlemen, in this video, I'm going to be going over a very interesting story. It is the story of the dancing Israelis. Now, I'm sure many of you might have a very vague recollection of the phrase dancing Israelis. And I'm guessing a lot of you probably think in your mind that it was some conspiracy theory, or that it was fake, or that it was some type of anti-Semitic stuff. It was 1000% real, so real to the point of the government having to declassify photos of the 5 dancing Israelis because of a Freedom of Information Act request, and I'm going to review everything that transpired related to the story. Now, the main part of the story did happen on September 11th, 2001 in New York City, but there was a lot of lead up and a lot of things that happened after the fact as well. A simple definition of the dancing Israelis were 5 men perched from an advantageous position in clear view of both towers, dancing, posing, and celebrating with a camera as the towers burned in the background. It was so noticeable, a bystander who was looking at the towers with binoculars over the top of the parking lot reported the 5 men to the police, along with their white van, which supposedly was part of their moving company, Urban Movers. The men left in their white van sometime after both towers were hit. At around 3 o'clock in the afternoon on September 11th, an alert went out to the police to look for this white van. A few hours later, they were able to track it down. The van was pulled over, and the men were investigated in New Jersey. The 5 Israelis originally denied having involvement in this event, saying their advantageous view was just a coincidence, and that they got there after the first building was hit. However, it was later reported that the white van was seen there at around 8 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time before the first plane was hit. I should also make a
Okay, so for those of you guys who are catching up with us right now, we're talking about this conspiracy theory. I hate to call it that. It's essentially like it's a real chain of events that, as people know, is very hard to quantify in the grand scheme of things. But essentially these 5 people who I don't even think they're from the United States. They came here. They flew here to the United States. They set up with a view and perspective of the Twin Towers on the day of. They filmed the event take place, and then they left. And all this is corroborated with real evidence. I've heard this story before, but man.
A note here that the 5 men claimed they saw the towers burning, and that attracted them to the advantageous position. The U.S. government has confirmed that there are photographs that exist of the 5 men smiling, laughing, and even in one instance, holding up a lighter right under where one of the towers was burning. There were around 80 total photos. The arrested Israelis were caught with money in their socks and tested positive for explosive residue in their van and on their clothing. The company that they worked for, Urban Movers, was later found to be a shell company started by another Israeli. When the FBI went to question him 3 days after September 11th, he fled to Israel. It was said that there was an abnormal amount of computers located inside the moving company's offices. They were all seized by the FBI. The 5 men were held for 70 days and then deported back to Israel, where they later admitted on Israeli TV that they were in New York City as Mossad agents there to document the event. The Mossad is the National Intelligence Agency of Israel. So how is that really possible? What those men were insinuating was that at least a fraction of their government would have had some prior knowledge of September 11th, which would have allowed them to get in position and in an area with a view of the towers, which then enabled them to celebrate as the towers were burning. And remember, they originally lied. It wasn't until they were deported off U.S. soil that they told the truth on Israeli TV. The moving company was set up for a specific reason. We know this because it immediately dissolved after September 11th when the FBI started questioning the Israeli owner. Many people have tried to make sense of this and explain it away. A common belief is that the men were happy and joyous to see September 11th because it likely meant U.S. involvement in the Middle East, potentially hurting Israel's enemies. I guess that is an explanation for the happiness, which in and of itself is extremely dark, but it's not realistic, considering everyone thought after the first plane hit the North Tower that it was a pilot error or some sort of accident. These men knew. And it doesn't really explain the situation. Here you have 5 men who have admitted to at least doing some type of recon mission in New York City under a shell company that was run by another Israeli that got immediately dissolved after September 11th. They would have likely known the day and the time frame when the event was going to happen, and then got deported from the United States, went back to Israel, and then admitted They worked for Israeli intelligence, trying to explain why they were in the position, ready and waiting for the towers to be hit. It also is worth noting that there was an
I like what Val says here real quick in the chat. He says, I love how they say the FBI did this and that. Like, they didn't orchestrate and play a big part of this massive psyop and ritual. And I just want to second that. Because when you look at this kind of thing taking place, it's impossible for something like this to have been done outside of the knowledge of the U.S. government. Even then, the national security apparatus would not have allowed for this to have taken place. Even to the point where, like, if a plane were to, like, go off track and head over the urban area in the route that it did, it would have been shot down. Like, there's just no way any of it. People will point to, like, a massive drop and, like, a bunch of failures. Like, this one failed and that one failed. And it was all just due to a bunch of bad happenstance. But we know that's not how real life works. We know that the government in the United States is, first of all, completely held hostage by foreign interests. Let's just be honest. And then on top of that, the foreign interests have the interest to see this event take place. So you have all this going on. These guys are obviously the agents of the deal. But what's funny about it all is it's like they wanted to get caught. I know that there's all this about, they made the mistake or they got picked up by the cops here or whatever. No, I think that the reason why they published all this, why they let all this happen, is because you're telling people the truth is out there, right? That's a ceiling fan man thing, right? It says it on that banner up there, right? The truth is out there. All you have to do is let it in, right? So that's the difference, right? If the truth is out there and you haven't let it in, it's your fault. Or at least that's how they see it ritualistically. It's essentially a consent ritual by accepting what they tell you as true. And there's actually more on that I'll talk about in a second, but let's continue. Whoops, that is not what I meant to do.
Israeli art student ring active in Florida monitoring the hijackers. Florida is where the hijackers took their flight school. If you are unfamiliar, the Israeli art student ring refers to a controversial phenomenon from the early 2000s involving individuals often described as Israeli art students who visited U.S. government facilities, military bases, and the homes of federal employees. They claimed to be selling or promoting art, but were suspected by some to be engaging in surveillance or espionage activities.
Great.
A French intelligence agency later reported that, according to the FBI, Arab terrorists and suspected terror cells lived in Phoenix, Arizona, as well as Miami and Hollywood, Florida, between December 2000 and April 2001, right near Israeli spy cells. The report suggested that Mossad agents were monitoring Mohammed Atta and other hijackers leading up to the attacks. It's commonly known that Israeli spy cells were located all over the United States leading up to September 11th. In August of 2001, 1 month before September 11th, the Mossad reportedly alerted the FBI and the CIA that up to 200 terrorists were entering the United States and planning a, quote, major attack on the United States. That is important information, but it doesn't explain the 5 men, the fake moving company, and the knowledge of the event happening at the specific time, at the specific place,
foreknowledge,
the specific building.
How would you know?
They were cheering for a reason. That reason was likely this. Since September 11th, 2001, the United States has spent $8 trillion on wars and related activities in the Middle East and other surrounding regions. A 2004 memo disclosed the deportation of over 100 operating Mossad agents from 2000 to 2001, including the dancing men arrested in New Jersey. The memo goes on to detail the location of the Israeli spy cells in relation to the hijackers. It says, in June of 2001, just 2 or 3 months before the September 11th hijackings, 15 of the 19 future hijackers were living in Hollywood, Florida, 9 in the town itself and 6 in surrounding towns. Hollywood, for months, had been and would continue to be the staging ground for the hijacking of the World Trade Center planes and the Pennsylvanian plane. Among the Israeli groups, more than 30 lived in the Hollywood area, 10 in Hollywood itself. The memo later goes on to say, in regards specifically to the 5 Israeli men, that on that day being 9/11, immediately after the first aircraft hit the North Tower, a resident of New Jersey, just across the Hudson River from Lower Manhattan, became alarmed when she saw a group of men celebrating, quote, on the roof of a white van in the parking lot of her apartment building. She wrote down the license plate number of the van and called the police. The police were told that the men were, quote, posing, dancing, and laughing against the background of the disaster, which could be plainly seen across the river. The men were smiling and exchanging high fives. An FBI alert was promptly issued saying, quote, vehicle possibly related to New York terrorist attack, white 2000 Chevrolet van with New Jersey registration, with urban...
Doesn't that tell you something, though, that right there? A bad event took place, and some guys were celebrating it. And the fact that they were celebrating it was extremely weird and out of character and worth investigating. That was 2001. Now you look at events like terror attacks in the United States in various forms, from, you know, a guy running people over with a car, or like stabbing someone to death on a train, or assassinating someone at a political rally of some sorts. These kinds of events now happen, and people are on the internet celebrating it and talking about how it should have happened and la la la, and it's like, and yet that's just something people do now, right? Now, I'm not saying people shouldn't be entitled to free speech. I'm just saying, look at how far we've slid to where the authorities used to take people acting celebratory over tragedy as some kind of an investigatory reason, because why would no normal person would celebrate people being assassinated, murdered, or blown up in some way. That's weird and out of character, and that's sad that we've moved so far, the Overton window, that now it's not out of character for the other side, so to speak, to celebrate the death and demise of people they perceive as being not on their side. Like, you know, I talked about the whole thing earlier. We're talking about the union. The state of the union is division. There's no unity in this country. Maybe between Christians, sort of. But that's also kind of a rough patch, too. Anyway.
Moving systems sign on back seen at the time of the first impact of jetliner into World Trade Center. 3 individuals with van were seen celebrating after initial impacts and subsequent explosion. FBI Newark field officers requested that, if the van is located, hold for prints and detain individuals. Sources close to the investigation said that they found in the van, quote, maps of the city with certain places highlighted, adding that, quote, it looked like they knew what was going to happen. One of the Israelis, as he was being detained by the police, said, quote, we are Israeli. We are not your problem. Your problems are our problems. The Palestinians are the problem. As for the Mossad warning to the United States a month before September 11th, it says, quote, the FBI and the CIA officials were advised in August that as many as 200 terrorists were slipping into the United States and planning, quote, a major assault on the United States. Mossad, however, was very vague and didn't give specific details on a date, time, or place on when it could potentially be happening.
Wow. I like how it was like, oh, it's like suspenseful, like audio going on to make it extra scary. I need that. I need a couple different audio tracks I can throw on when I start talking about something suspenseful. Oh, and what we don't realize is that they had been planning it for many years prior to the event. The new American century. It was planned and then executed. Oh, and then you start talking again. You know, you're like, my friends, my brothers and sisters, everyone, thank you so much for being here. Obviously, I'm not letting you go just yet, but it would be as if a soundtrack started playing every time I started talking. Now what I'll tell you about my dancing Israeli friends is that I want to show you guys. I want to take a moment to show you this here on the wall over by my moon is the Truth Therapy Sessions mouse pad, which I can't accurately explain to you how utterly enormous it is. It's too big to simply be a mouse pad. What kind of monster am I? Is it a Nephilim mouse pad, perhaps? They say the Nephilim looked like clowns. I think our local Nephilim expert would probably be the one. For all we know, Paul Stobbs is like 10 feet tall, and that's an average mouse pad. I don't know. Okay, I gotta stop playing that song because I think it's gonna get me in trouble. I think it's gonna be like, oh, copyright claim. No, we didn't even do anything we weren't supposed to do, right? I have half an hour left to pull a Kramer. I have but half an hour left to introduce you all to my good friend Kramer. I wish I could play that video. That would be so funny. I mean, I could, but that would definitely send us straight to Patreon for that episode. I'm sure you guys remember. That was like part of my formative years. The Kramer is a racist video from TMZ. that was impactful for me. That had me realizing. Caribbean says, I love the Ari Shafir amazing racist stuff. Yeah, see? He was Jewish. He was funny. You know, I've always thought the Jewish guys were really funny. They usually are really funny. As long as they're not Talmudic. There's something about being Talmudic that's not exactly funny. Everyone says amazing racist is gold. Yeah, it is. It was because it was from a funnier time. It's from a lighter time where people were like having more fun and not trying to actually hurt each other. We've come so far nowadays that like you couldn't do those kinds of stunts because somebody would like shoot you or something, you know? And that's crazy. We have to figure out how to get back to that. We have to figure out how to get back to a time in America and around the world where things were better. And of course, that's difficult to say because we've come so far. Now we've got all these phones, we've got all this technology, 24-hour media cycle, so many things changing, so many things happening day in and day out. How are we even supposed to know what the right thing to do is anymore? Like you want to tune out, but if you tune out, then you don't know. And see, that's not ideal either. We don't want to be in that situation. We don't want to be, you know, going through all that, and it's tough. I was thinking about it, you know, looking at the old times, the old world, better world, and I think, you know, the only reason that things were so great back during this, you know, millennial kingdom is because people were unified together, which is something we're suffering from now, this division over all these dumb things. I don't know, I kind of feel like we could do it. You know, I was talking about it earlier, so many people have so much effort they put out, getting up in the morning and going to work and like feeding their bills and trying. So many people haven't given up, right? I said I was black-pilled and I used to be, you know, just kind of quit. Didn't feel like it, but I've decided I want to resist. I've decided I don't want to go quietly into the dark. Things have gotten worse than ever, and really the only way things are going to turn around is through the work of Jesus. It's got to be his power and his influence, and there just isn't a movement that represents that, you know? Where you're supposed to put your faith in, the Republicans, the Democrats, the church. Just seems like so many of these organizations aren't interested in actually making the world a better place. And I just can't sit idly anymore about it, you know? I can't be here and just be like, okay, the only purpose that we have in the world is to go to church or like do little things like that and not actually make a difference. I want to change the world for the better, and it seems like as things get worse and worse, the more it shows how much we actually need the Lord, how much we need to get unified behind something that's really important, doing the will of the Father and following his commands. And so many of us have spent all of our lives, you know, turning a blind eye to the crazy stuff that goes on because we feel like it's not our responsibility, it's not our job, and I feel like that needs to change. That's why I'm so interested in this whole Christian Dominion movement thing, and I'm really excited to continue pushing that. The group has grown a lot substantially already. I think we have quite a few people already in the group, and what we're talking about there is practical ways to advance our understanding of the kingdom and what we're supposed to do here. So there's ways to do it. There's ways to make a difference positively without going to war or causing a bunch of problems, but what people need more than anything is something to consolidate themselves together with. You know, a decentralized platform, a movement that is of the heart and of the mind, that begins in such a way that people are able to download the facts, understand the truth, and apply it to themselves without needing a pastor or a preacher or some kind of other mediator to get them to Christ. Because it doesn't matter what version of the book that you're reading or whether you're actually reading the book at all, in the sense that if you're searching for Jesus, you'll find him. If you knock, the door shall be open to you. If you seek me, you will find me, he says. And so I think that we should just be trying to focus on that, trying to get our identity out to the world, get everyone to understand. When I post these pictures, right? Let's see, I've got them over here. It's like it's part of the fun. I try to imagine it like we're aliens coming to this earth. We're not from here. We're not staying here when we go. This is the kind of thing that we are. We are like an invasion force from another planet, although we're not doing the planet thing. But we are an invasionary force from another universe, and we should live like it. It's so weird how we live in the world. Christ says, be not conformed to the world. Maybe it's not Christ that says that, but the Bible certainly says that. Bro, do we also get to probe? Oh, boy. I mean, that's what people will have to be afraid of. The probe. But I feel like art like this is really good because I feel like this frustrates normies. You know what I mean? Like, if they start seeing this kind of stuff popping up on social media, if they start seeing it as being like, oh, it's some Heaven's Gate or whatever, like they want a UFO to show up and they want it to happen, it's great. And again, it's mostly for fun that we have this kind of artwork and that we, joke about it being like an invasionary force. But at the end of the day, we're looking to create a brand and an image and an icon and an idea that points to Christ and that points out who we really are in the grand scheme of things. And of course, that's part of why I bring it up, is because what we're looking at, is a world that's getting increasingly worse, and we have a responsibility to do something. So this is our responsibility. This is us taking action here. This is the Christian Dominion movement. Or as I was joking, the Talmudic Dominion movement. I know I said that a couple of times, but it's true. It's not that it's Talmudic, but that we need a movement like that. We need something that we can represent ourselves with as an alternative to the mainstream belief systems. Whenever there's a problem in the world, I'm just reminded, another piece of news, again, a train stabbing, an assassination at a public speaking event. These are signs of the times that people cannot ignore. Whether or not you want to call it a psyop, or whether it's orchestrated, or whether it's fake and not even real, none of that actually matters when we've reached the point that people feel that it's real. The impact is real. And so I say to us, what are we all doing here? As we all continue to sit back idly, not blaming anyone who doesn't, obviously we all have jobs and important responsibilities, but all of our energy is getting lost in these campaigns, these political campaigns, and these arguments over news stories and all of these various things that unfortunately are not getting us anywhere. And I think that what we need is an opportunity to organize together and to reach out to other people and say, guys, there's an option other than living like this, And I always go back to that whole Romans, I think it's chapter 13, where he talks about submitting unto the authorities and everything. And I'm just grateful to know that that's, audience relevancy, Those people were living under the control of Rome in a Christ had left, but he hadn't returned yet. No second coming. And they were afraid of what would happen to them. They were trying to establish their church. In a way, we're almost in the same kind of shoes. Maybe we don't know for sure if Jesus has already returned, so let's just not make it be about that, right? The early church, they didn't know when the day would come that Christ would return. And today we have a whole bunch of futurist, dispensationalist Christians who don't know when he'll come either. So it's the rapture every day next week or whatever, any day. Any day now. And so without knowing, then we kind of are like the early church again. Just think about it like that. Let that sink in and empower you. God has raised an aware generation that knows the world is full of liars and deceivers and principalities, rulers in high places. Now you know that because the Holy Spirit illuminated it to you. You know the truth. And so now I see it as that we're like the early church of a new generation with a new church. Because there's no church in the world right now, and it sounds crazy when I say that, but these country clubs, these hangouts, these social groups are not governments. They govern nothing. And the church was God's government. And his government is absent. So what are we doing? That's what I think this is. This is the new early church. This is Kingdom 2.0, so to speak. And I really believe it's true. And it's not to say anything but that Jesus remains king. He is alive today. He rose from the dead on the third day. He is king. He has conquered death. He's conquered the grave. He's seated at the right hand of the throne of God, and he is king. And so that says to me, then why do we care what all these governments of men say and do? They suck. It's he who seats and unseats kings, and just because some guy grabs a podium and says, he seated me king, that doesn't make the authority legitimate. Would God ever seat a king who would actively work against him? I don't think so. I think that there are people who have seated themselves, and people who have seated their friends, And we've all been tricked to believe that they've been seated by God. And I say, no. I say, we do not have to live and serve under these petty kings and their lying tyrant kingdoms and their falsification of authority. Know your authority, or you have no authority. Where does the authority come from? Jesus Christ, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the way, the truth, and the life. And that's a reality we all need to come to know. When we see the world in shambles and we see people making it happen, we always say, why doesn't something happen? Why can't we fix this? It's because we don't have dominion. We don't have a movement for dominion. Whenever I see all this stuff happen, you know what I say? This wouldn't happen if America had Christian rules in the country. If we had order, if we had justice, if we had accountability. We're never going to make the world a perfect place with our imperfect hands. We're never going to come up with the perfect strategy with our spongy brains. But we could do better. We could try harder. And we deserve representation for that cause. And that's, once again, that is the Christian Dominion movement. So hopefully Wendy's been sharing the link in the chat. I hope you guys will apply to join us over there as we continue to advance God's purpose in the world beyond simply sitting back and commenting on everything, but about how we're going to take the charge to unite Christians around the world to make the world a better place. I say this all the time. We're going under an oppressive force right now. You have to pay the tax man or the police come and arrest you and take your house and take your car. You have to do something. You're complying. Why comply with Satan? Right? I see 97% of the world's population, they won't do anything. They won't stand up for what's right. They won't do anything. And that's okay. Because they won't stand up to us. Right? All these people who don't want to do anything, who don't want to see the world changed, they are do-nothing doctrine. And that's okay. That's your choice to make. You don't have to participate in anything. You don't have to believe in anything. You don't have to do anything. It's your life, your choice to make. I feel like we should be doing more. And I think that if we do more, then we set ourselves above people as an example. And I don't mean in value or like, I just mean you put yourself in front. You become the front line. And that's what we need to do. We need to instruct people in what it means to be a member of the kingdom and to be a citizen of this important eternity. And then from there, what are our responsibilities in that? That's our responsibility to combat this stuff. So things have been getting collectively worse, but we have not had a movement like this before. We have not had a movement that said, the world is getting crappier and crappier. We have to be a force to resist it. We are called to resist evil. Resist the devil and he will flee from you. We've been commanded to take care of people. We've been commanded to have dominion. We've been given so many commands that we forgot. We have to get back to doing that. Because you look at events like 9/11, turning points in history. Today, this day, September 10, 2025. People will remember this forever because of the events that took place today. Regardless of whether you believe it was right or wrong or real or fake, the impact is real. People felt it all over this country and they're feeling it all over the world because they're feeling this force of oppression. And I say we should resist. If people perceive a new order of righteous Christendom ruling the earth as a threat, if that's actually the end of the world, if that's actually a bad thing for people, they'll stand aside as they do every day when oppressive forces come by and take their tax money and evict you from your house and write you speeding tickets you don't deserve and stab you to death on a train. The forces of evil are at work in the world, whether you resist it or not. I just say we ought to resist. Right? Wow. It wasn't the most focused night, and I understand that. I know that we didn't lay down any major law tonight. There wasn't too much for the vain, bulging rants or anything this evening. I didn't even wear my nose very long, or really at all, because it was just not going to happen. I know from last time. But guys, it's hard for me to even joke. I like, 9/11, my favorite holiday. It's like I was so on board for that. And then the events of today kind of like had me freaked out. Kind of had me a little upset. I saw some stuff I didn't want to see today. And it just tells me that we're on the right track. We look at 9/11, we look at 2020, People see the world getting worse, and I say, this is exactly what the world needs. There's a poster here for Christian Dominion Movement, and I didn't tell it to say this. The AI thought it was a good idea. The AI said, Destination Kingdom, the end of the world is just the beginning. And then, the holy city coming in, the armies of the earth are like, oh no, I can't guarantee it's going to look like this. I don't know. I don't see necessarily that we're getting access to a giant UFO kingdom castle, but who knows? Who knows? But what I do know is that we have, like I said, a responsibility to resist all this stuff. As it gets worse, it only has me more convinced. If people radicalize, we're going to lose the opportunity. I see it already forming up. Christian nationalist organizations. Groups that say, we need to have a future that's led by men and get women out of the way. We need a future that's led by white people and get those other races out of the way. I've seen it all. The natural reaction to this oppressive, manipulative force is to be reactionary and try to blame the individuals that we want to blame for the collective issue, which is a lack of righteous authority in the world. Because whenever there's a judge that says, this man has been arrested 13 times for violent and sexual crimes, I'll release him. And we ask, why is that judge even a judge when not only are they illegitimate because they don't make decisions that are correct or righteous, but it turns out they don't even have a law degree. How are you a judge without a law degree? Can you imagine if I was a judge without a law degree and then I let some criminal off and everybody want my head? Everybody want my head. So it's a lack of accountability because there's no righteous authority, no active righteous authority. What we need is a society that understands a higher expectation for ourselves and for each other. And that is what we need collectively and entirely. Because the world's not just going to magically get better. And of course, I always say this, Jesus Christ is the solution we need. We're not going to fix it by being mad at people and going to war with individual groups who can't get their act together. We have to raise the bar for everybody in order to have a higher standard, in order to have accountability, in order to encourage each other to do better. And we have to have a motivation for it. Not just the reality of who we are and what we're actually sent here to do in the world, but that we can promise the world will be better. Because it's a fact. It's universal truth. You ever wonder where 7 cities of gold or El Dorado came from? It's because there was a time in history where they had so much gold they made the road out of it. Why? Because when you have real unity and real righteous order, you find out that all that money getting stolen isn't getting stolen anymore. All those wars that are wasting everyone's lives away aren't being fought anymore. You find out all those arguments, all that trouble that you have with your neighbor goes away because you and your neighbor have what you need. You don't need to fight over scarcity because you find out that the world is 4 times bigger than you thought it was or something. And that there's no limitation no realistic limitation. You got millions of miles of beachfront property, more oil and coal than you can imagine. Trees and grass and plants and animals as far as the eye can see on giant mega continents. Like, it doesn't even matter. Africa's the most fertile continent on Earth, and it's not even tapped. There's hardly even civilization in Africa. So the world is not doomed. People just got to get their act together and make a change. And I know it's like, oh, anybody could say that while sitting in their chair in their office or whatever. But look, it starts somewhere. Before there was the church in Ephesus and Laodicea and before there was a church in Corinth, before there were churches anywhere in the world, there were people like me and you who said the world would be better if they knew Jesus, if Jesus was the authority, if Jesus' authority was parsed out through his people, if we oversaw the way things go day to day, if we looked out for the widows and the orphans and the kids and if we held people to account, You see all this chaos going on. I want to address it so bad. I don't want to end up a current events guy, but I see this stuff happening and I'm like, guys, maybe I just have some kind of a responsibility as a guy who teaches Sunday service on Sunday to kind of say what are we supposed to do about this stuff? Look, there's no use giving too much time and energy and thought to the things we can't control. Can't control what happens in Utah. miles away from what we're doing. Can't be in control of what happens in a country on the other side of the world. We can't really control that. But we can control who we are and how we act and what we move towards as a group. I can't promise success, but it's a lot better that we try than if we just wait around for something to happen. Because if you know the timeline, you believe that we're living in a different time of history than what they say, there isn't going to be some big event, right? There isn't going to be like a second coming if it already happened. So we can't just sit here waiting for the Messiah to come to save us all. He's already done the work. So what are we waiting for? I think it's time for the true believers in Christ to rise and become leaders and examples to the world, that we don't have to live this way. And I think that even the enemies of the kingdom, the atheists and the agnostic people and the irreligious people and even people of other religions would see the impact of righteous rulership. And they'd say, dude, it's better that way. The world's a better place when you do it God's way. It's a fact. History repeats itself. We don't need to be lost in the wilderness anymore. It's time to go home. That's what I think. We've been living prodigal living for far too long. It's time to say, all right, guys, show's over. The adults are in the room now. Not the little kids the government thought we were. Not the little kids that NASA tried to pretend we were. Not the little kids the Department of Education or the Smithsonian or whoever else tried to say we were. We are grown men. We are grown Jewish men from the state of New York. And coming at you live from the state of New York, it's the Main Character Podcast, Level 59. Made possible by the Cult of Con. I am Conman, attorney at law. Thank you for being here. It's actually pretty much good for an outro, right? Coming at you live. Caribbean says, keep going, Connor. Some of us just needed a man to be goofy and say what he believes so we can do it too. Well, look, I like to make my jokes and stuff, but there's going to be a chapter in the future, you better believe it, where we talk serious change. Because we can't let it go on like this anymore. We have to be the adults in a world that won't have any. We have to be the leaders in a world that is leaderless. We have to point people to the cross, point people to the King of Kings who's alive today, and say, look, he doesn't want us to live this way. We've got to do some dirty work to get the job done. That's what it takes. But we're willing to do what it takes. We're willing to make the world a better place. Because I'm tired of seeing that stuff, right? I'm tired of seeing all this disaster going on. When's the next 9/11, right? We got to put a stop. It's time to pump the brakes, y'all. Christian Dominion Movement. Coming to a town near you. A flying saucer of influence is descending upon you. Party saucer. Zap, zap. I don't know. I guess it would make like the same noise as tripods from War of the World. It's like, wow. You guys are great. I sincerely had a wonderful time with you guys this evening. It was a great opportunity to let loose and just have a kind of a lighthearted discussion about whatever's going on in the world. 9/11 or dancing Israelis or the changing times, man. Things are never going to be easy. But if we keep our eyes fixed on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, I believe that we will come to, that we will find and see the light, and that the world will be a better place because it is his will that the kingdom of heaven be made present here on the earth, and that is through us, his kingdom citizens, because the kingdom is within you, and in you it can be advanced into the world around you, and the world around you can begin to look more like the kingdom of heaven in heaven, on earth just as it is in heaven. Amen. All right, everyone, it's been an absolute honor once again. Wednesday, hump day, just a couple days left of the weekend, and I'll join you all over there on Friday for my friend Ceiling Fan Man's show. Always a good time over there, and God bless you so much. Thank you all for being here tonight. Again, this has been level 59 of the Main Character Podcast, made possible by the Cult of Con. And of course, I'm going to send you all out on a beautiful and classic 9/11 hit by Martin Noakes.
There's a million reasons why I don't.
God bless you all. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you.
There's a million reasons why it can't be true. Open fire can't melt steel. It's not hot enough. It's nothing new, it's not a mystery. Check out the Reichstag, Germany. There's a million questions still remain unanswered. is not a mystery. Check out the USS Liberty. 9/11, 9/11, what went down with Building 7? It's a mystery to this day. The building fell with such precision, free fall speed, no reasons given. Like the towers, it just fell. The fire's not enough, no way hard enough to bring it down. The project for the new American century was added to a year before that day. It states in order to proceed a modern day Pearl Harbor it would need. The Gulf of Tonkin took the blame. 9/11 set them free. The project for the new American century. It's just a lies and conspiracy. Cold War, blood, flu, WMD. 9/11, 9/11, what went down with Building 7? It's a mystery to this day. The building fell with such precision, free fall speed, no reasons given. Like the towers, it just fell. The fire's not enough, no way hard enough to bring it down. We've gotta stand up, we've gotta be strong, we've gotta hold our nerve until the job is done. And they've made a killing. They don't care about the blood that there's